The massive creature stretched its metallic wings across the observation deck of the space station, its scales shimmering like liquid mercury under the artificial lights. Zephyros had earned the nickname Deadliest Dragon, not from the humans who feared him, but from his own kind who respected his lethal reputation across 7 galaxies. Standing 12 feet tall with razor-sharp claws that could slice through titanium, he was a sight that made even seasoned space warriors step back in terror. But today, something different stirred within the ancient alien's chest. He watched through the reinforced glass as a small human child sat alone in the detention center below. The girl couldn't be more than 10 years old, with tangled brown hair and clothes that had seen better days. Her name was Sarah Chen, and she was the daughter of Ambassador Marcus Chen, one of Earth's most respected diplomats. Zephyros had been summoned to this remote station in the Andromeda sector for what the Galactic Council called enforcement duties. His reputation for swift, merciless justice made him the perfect choice when someone needed to be made an example of. The dragon alien had carried out hundreds of such missions over his 1,000-year lifespan, never questioning orders, never showing mercy. The ambassador had been caught in a scandal that shook the foundations of interstellar politics. Secret documents revealed he had been selling classified human military information to the Zorblaxian Empire, humanity's oldest enemy. The evidence was overwhelming, and the punishment was clear according to galactic law. But what made this case unusual was the Council's decision to include the diplomat's family in the consequences. Sarah kicked her legs back and forth from the metal bench where she sat, unaware of the massive alien watching her from above. She clutched a worn stuffed rabbit that had somehow survived the journey from Earth to this cold, sterile place millions of light years from home. The child had been separated from her parents 3 days ago, when security forces raided their quarters on the diplomatic vessel. Zephyros studied the human child with curious eyes that glowed like burning coals. In all his centuries of existence, he had never been asked to punish someone so young and innocent. His species valued strength above all else, but they also had a strict code about protecting the defenseless. The dragon's internal conflict began to grow as he observed Sarah's brave attempt to stay strong, despite her obvious fear and confusion. The station commander, a stern Rigelian with blue-tinted skin, approached Zephyros with a datapad containing the execution orders. The council has decided that the child will serve as an example to other potential traitors, the commander explained in his mechanical voice. Her punishment will be broadcast across all human colonies to ensure this betrayal is never repeated. Zephyros accepted the pad but did not immediately review its contents. His attention remained fixed on the small figure below. Sarah had begun singing quietly to herself, a simple earth lullaby that somehow reached his enhanced hearing through the station's ventilation system. The melody was haunting and pure, unlike anything in his warrior culture. The dragon alien had witnessed countless executions and punishments throughout his career. He had seen mighty warriors beg for mercy and watched hardened criminals face their fate with resignation, but never had he encountered such innocence in the face of undeserved punishment. Sarah had committed no crime except being born to the wrong father. As the hours passed, Zephyros found himself studying human behavior through his observations of the child. She shared her meager food rations with a small mechanical toy that had been damaged during her capture. She spoke to her stuffed rabbit as if it could hear her, telling it stories about their home on Earth and promising they would see her mother again soon. The dragon's massive frame shifted uncomfortably as he realized the depth of the child's trust and hope. Sarah genuinely believed that someone would come to rescue her, that the adults in her life would protect her from harm. She had no understanding of galactic politics or the price of her father's betrayal. Night cycle approached on the station, and emergency lighting cast long shadows across the detention area. Sarah curled up on the hard bench using her jacket as a blanket and her stuffed rabbit as a pillow. Even in this uncomfortable position, she managed to fall asleep with the resilience that only children possess. Zephyros remained at his post, but sleep did not come to him. His warrior training had taught him to follow orders without question, to serve the greater good of galactic peace through swift justice. Yet watching this innocent child prepare to pay for crimes she could not even comprehend challenged. Everything he believed about honor and duty, the dragon, alien's sharp mind began to work through, possibilities he had never considered before. In all his missions, he had dealt with guilty parties who deserved their fate. This situation was different, and for the first time in his long life, Zephyros found himself questioning the wisdom of the Galactic Council. As Sarah slept fitfully in her cold cell, occasionally whimpering from nightmares, the deadliest creature in 7 galaxies experienced something entirely new. The beginning of doubt crept into his consciousness like a slow poison, making him wonder if there were some battles that should not be fought, some orders that should not be followed. The execution was scheduled for the next day at the height of the station's operational period, ensuring maximum viewership across human space. Representatives from dozens of species would witness the Council's justice, and Zephyros would be the instrument of that justice. But as he watched over the sleeping child, the dragon alien began to realize that some things were more important than following orders, and some prices were too high to pay for political stability. The massive creature stretched its metallic wings across the observation deck of the space station, its scales shimmering like liquid mercury under the artificial lights. Zephyros had earned the nickname Deadliest Dragon, not from the humans, who feared him, but from his own kind who respected his lethal reputation across 7 galaxies, standing 12 feet tall with razor-sharp claws that could slice through titanium. He was a sight that made even seasoned space warriors step back in terror. But today, something different stirred within the ancient alien's chest. He watched, through the reinforced glass, as a small human child sat alone in the detention center below. The girl couldn't be more than 10 years old, with tangled brown hair and clothes that had seen better days. Her name was Sarah Chen, and she was the daughter of Ambassador Marcus Chen, one of Earth's most respected diplomats. Zephyros had been summoned to this remote station in the Andromeda sector for what the Galactic Council called enforcement duties. His reputation for swift, merciless justice made him the perfect choice when someone needed to be made an example of. The dragon alien had carried out hundreds of such missions over his 1,000-year lifespan, never questioning orders, never showing mercy. The ambassador had been caught in a scandal that shook the foundations of interstellar politics. Secret documents revealed he had been selling classified human military information to the Zorblaxian Empire, humanity's oldest enemy. The evidence was overwhelming, and the punishment was clear according to galactic law. But what made this case unusual was the Council's decision to include the diplomat's family in the consequences. Sarah kicked her legs back and forth from the metal bench where she sat, unaware of the massive alien watching her from above. She clutched a worn stuffed rabbit that had somehow survived the journey from Earth to this cold, sterile place, millions of light years from home. The child had been separated from her parents 3 days ago when security forces raided their quarters on the diplomatic vessel. Zephyros studied the human child with curious eyes that glowed like burning coals. In all his centuries of existence, he had never been asked to punish someone so young and innocent. His species valued strength above all else, but they also had a strict code about protecting the defenseless. The dragon's internal conflict began to grow as he observed Sarah's brave attempt to stay strong despite her obvious fear and confusion. The station commander, a stern Rigelian with blue-tinted skin, approached Zephyros with a data pad containing the execution orders. The Council has decided that the child will serve as an example to other potential traitors, the commander explained in his mechanical voice. Her punishment will be broadcast across all human colonies to ensure this betrayal is never repeated. Zephyros accepted the pad, but did not immediately review its contents. His attention remained fixed on the small figure below. Sarah had begun singing quietly to herself, a simple Earth lullaby that somehow reached his enhanced hearing through the station's ventilation system. The melody was haunting and pure, unlike anything in his warrior culture. The dragon alien had witnessed countless executions and punishments throughout his career. He had seen mighty warriors beg for mercy and watched hardened criminals face their fate with resignation. But never had he encountered such innocence in the face of undeserved punishment. Sarah had committed no crime except being born to the wrong father. As the hours passed, Zephyros found himself studying human behavior through his observations of the child. She shared her meager food rations with a small mechanical toy that had been damaged during her capture. She spoke to her stuffed rabbit as if it could hear her, telling it stories about their home on Earth and promising they would see her mother again soon. The dragon's massive frame shifted uncomfortably as he realized the depth of the child's trust and hope. Sarah genuinely believed that someone would come to rescue her, that the adults in her life would protect her from harm. She had no understanding of galactic politics or the price of her father's betrayal. Night cycle approached on the station, and emergency lighting cast long shadows across the detention area. Sarah curled up on the hard bench, using her jacket as a blanket and her stuffed rabbit as a pillow. Even in this uncomfortable position, she managed to fall asleep with the resilience that only children possess. Zephyros remained at his post, but sleep did not come to him. His warrior training had taught him to follow orders without question, to serve the greater good of galactic peace through swift justice. Yet watching this innocent child prepare to pay for crimes she could not even comprehend challenged everything he believed about honor and duty. The dragon alien's sharp mind began to work through possibilities he had never considered before. In all his missions, he had dealt with guilty parties who deserved their fate. This situation was different, and for the first time in his long life, Zephyros found himself questioning the wisdom of the Galactic Council. As Sarah slept fitfully in her cold cell, occasionally whimpering from nightmares, the deadliest creature in 7 galaxies experienced something entirely new. The beginning of doubt crept into his consciousness like a slow poison, making him wonder if there were some battles that should not be fought, some orders that should not be followed. The execution was scheduled for the next day at the height of the station's operational period, ensuring maximum viewership across human space. Representatives from dozens of species would witness the Council's justice, and Zephyros would be the instrument of that justice. But as he watched over the sleeping child, the dragon alien began to realize that some things were more important than following orders, and some prices were too high to pay for political stability. 3 hours remained until the scheduled execution, when Zephyros began putting his desperate plan into motion. The dragon alien moved through the station's corridors with purposeful strides, his enhanced senses cataloging every security measure and potential escape route. His reputation granted him access to restricted areas without question, a privilege he now intended to use for rebellion rather than enforcement. The first step required accessing the station's communication array. Zephyros needed to send a coded message to an old ally, someone who owed him a debt significant enough to risk everything. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded an independent transport vessel that operated in the gray areas between legal and illegal activities. She had once been a decorated human military officer, until political scandals destroyed her career, forcing her into the shadows of galactic society. Years ago, Zephyros had been ordered to capture Captain Vasquez for smuggling medical supplies to refugee camps without proper authorization. Instead of arresting her, the dragon alien had allowed her to escape, recognizing that her crimes served a greater good than strict adherence to bureaucratic law. That act of mercy had created a bond between them that transcended species barriers. The communication went through encrypted channels that would be difficult for station security to trace. "Elena, this is Zephyros. I require immediate extraction for 2 passengers. Location Detention Station Alpha 7. Timeframe 2 hours maximum. This request carries maximum priority." The response came quickly, filled with surprise and concern. "Dragon, what in the 7 hells are you doing?" "That station is crawling with Council forces. And since when do you need extraction help? I cannot explain over open channels. Will you assist or not?" There was a long pause before Elena's voice returned, now carrying the determination that had made her legendary among her crew. "For the dragon who saved my life? I'll be there. But you better have a damn good explanation when this is over." With his escape route secured, Zephyros turned his attention to the more immediate problem of reaching Sarah without triggering security alarms. The detention level was monitored by multiple sensor systems designed to detect unauthorized access attempts. However, the dragon's security clearance gave him legitimate reasons to be in that area, at least until someone questioned why he was there outside of execution protocols. As he made his way toward the detention center, Zephyros encountered Station Commander Thorek reviewing final preparations for the public broadcast. The blue-skinned Rigelian looked up from his datapad with the cold efficiency that characterized his species. "Ah, Zephyros. I was just reviewing the ceremony details. The execution will be broadcast live to 47 human colonies and major population centers. The Council expects this demonstration to have significant psychological impact on potential traitors. The dragon alien nodded curtly. Has the prisoner been informed of the proceedings? No need. Human children do not require advance notification of their punishment. It would only cause unnecessary distress. Thorek's matter-of-fact tone revealed the callous nature of the decision-makers behind this order. I wish to conduct a final interrogation before the execution. Standard protocol requires confirmation that no additional intelligence can be extracted from family members. Zephyros's lie came smoothly, supported by his reputation for thoroughness in previous missions. Of course, you have 1 hour before the ceremony begins. The media crews are already setting up their equipment. Zephyros made his way to the detention level, passing technicians installing broadcast equipment and additional guards taking their positions for the public event. The increased security would make escape more difficult, but the dragon alien had faced worse odds in his long career. Sarah was sitting in the corner of her cell when Zephyros appeared at her door. She looked up with recognition, offering a small smile that pierced the dragon's heart like a plasma blade. The child had somehow managed to wash her face and smooth her hair, maintaining dignity despite her circumstances. You came back, she said simply. I hoped you would. Sarah, I need you to listen very carefully to what I am about to tell you. Can you be brave for a little while longer? Zephyros kept his voice low, knowing that surveillance equipment was recording their conversation. The child nodded solemnly. My mommy always says I'm brave like my daddy used to be before he became important. In a few minutes, there is going to be a lot of noise and confusion on this station. When that happens, I need you to come with me quickly and quietly. Do not ask questions, do not look back, just follow where I lead you. Can you do that? Sarah's eyes widened with understanding that her situation was more dangerous than she had realized. Are the bad people really going to hurt me? Not if I can prevent it. But we must move fast when the time comes. Zephyros activated his personal override codes and opened the cell door, violating direct orders for the first time in his military career. The child stepped out hesitantly, clutching her stuffed rabbit against her chest. Will I see my mommy and daddy again? I cannot promise that, Sarah, but I can promise that I will try to keep you safe. The dragon alien knelt beside her, his massive frame creating a protective shelter around the small human. There are people in the galaxy who believe that children should not pay for their parents' mistakes. I am one of those people. Sarah reached out with one small hand and touched the metallic scales on Zephyros's arm. You're not as scary as you look. You have kind eyes. The observation struck the dragon alien with unexpected force. In all his centuries of existence, no one had ever called him kind. Fear, respect, and terror were the usual responses to his presence. This small human's ability to see past his fearsome exterior to recognize something deeper challenged everything he believed about himself. An explosion echoed through the station's corridors, followed by emergency alarms and the sound of running feet. Captain Vasquez had arrived ahead of schedule, creating the distraction that Zephyros needed for their escape attempt. The confusion has begun. Sarah, stay close to me and do exactly as I say. Zephyros lifted the child carefully in his massive arms, ensuring her safety while maintaining his ability to fight if necessary. As they moved through the chaotic corridors toward the docking bay where Elena's ship waited, the dragon alien realized that his life had fundamentally changed in the span of a few days. He was no longer just a weapon wielded by the Galactic Council. He had become a protector, and for the first time in 1,000 years that felt like the right thing to be. The station's corridors erupted into chaos as Captain Vasquez's diversionary attack struck the power distribution center. Emergency lighting cast red shadows across the walls, while automated systems blared warnings about hull breaches and system failures. Zephyros moved through the pandemonium with Sarah held securely against his chest, his enhanced senses navigating through smoke and debris with practiced ease. Security forces rushed past them without recognition, their attention focused on reaching the damaged sections and repelling what they assumed was an external assault. The dragon alien's reputation worked in his favor, as panicked personnel automatically cleared a path, assuming he was responding to the emergency rather than creating one. Sarah buried her face against Zephyros's metallic scales, overwhelmed by the noise and confusion surrounding them. The child's trust in his protection was absolute. Even as explosions shook the station's superstructure and sent loose equipment crashing to the floor around them. We're almost there, little one. Zephyros whispered, his deep voice somehow carrying comfort despite the surrounding chaos. Captain Vasquez is waiting for us. They reached the docking bay to find Elena's ship, the Stellar Phoenix, locked in a firefight with station defense systems. The modified transport vessels, shields flared with each impact from automated weapons platforms, while its own cannons returned fire with precision strikes that disabled rather than destroyed. Elena's voice crackled through Zephyros's communication device. Dragon, I've got about 3 minutes before they override my jamming and call for reinforcements. Whatever you're doing down there, do it fast. The docking bay's atmospheric field flickered as power fluctuations from the damaged systems created dangerous gaps in the protective barrier. Zephyros calculated the distance to Elena's ship, the timing of the weapons fire, and the risks involved in making their escape across open space. Sarah, I need you to hold on very tightly and keep your eyes closed. We are going to fly now. The dragon alien spread his magnificent wings, their metallic surfaces catching the emergency lighting like mirrors. The child's grip tightened around his neck as understanding dawned. You can really fly like the dragons in my stories? Better than the dragons in your stories, Zephyros replied with grim humor as he launched himself into the chaotic space of the docking bay. Automated defense systems immediately locked onto their trajectory, plasma bolts streaking past them with lethal precision. The dragon alien's combat experience saved them as he rolled and twisted through the incoming fire, using his natural agility to avoid certain death while protecting his precious cargo. Elena's ship moved to intercept them, its cargo bay doors sliding open to reveal a makeshift landing area cleared of equipment. The captain herself stood at the opening, her weathered face tight with concentration as she coordinated their rescue with her pilot. Incoming dragon with passenger, she shouted over the ship's communication system. Medical team to Cargo Bay 1. Zephyros landed hard on the ship's deck, his powerful legs absorbing the impact while keeping Sarah safe in his arms. The cargo bay doors sealed immediately as Elena's ship broke away from the station with desperate acceleration, its engines pushing beyond safe operational limits. Sarah opened her eyes to find herself in the relative safety of the transport vessel, surrounded by Elena's diverse crew members who stared at her with mixtures of curiosity and concern. The human captain approached them carefully, her hand resting on her sidearm more from habit than threat. Well, Dragon, you certainly know how to make an exit, but I think you owe me an explanation about why the galaxy's most feared enforcer just kidnapped a human child from a council detention facility. Zephyros gently set Sarah down on a cushioned cargo container, ensuring she was stable before turning to face Elena. The child is Sarah Chen, daughter of Ambassador Marcus Chen. The council ordered her execution as punishment for her father's crimes. Elena's face darkened with understanding and disgust. They wanted to kill a kid for something her father did? That's low even for the council's standards. The execution was to be broadcast across human space as a deterrent to future traitors. I could not allow an innocent to die for political theater. The dragon alien's voice carried the weight of his decision and its inevitable consequences. Dr. Kess, Elena's medical officer and a member of the peaceful Altarian species, knelt beside Sarah with a portable scanner. The child appears physically unharmed but shows signs of stress and exhaustion. She needs food, rest, and stability. Sarah looked around at the strange faces surrounding her, finally beginning to process the reality of her situation. Are you all space pirates like in the adventure shows? Elena laughed despite the tension of their situation. Something like that, kid. But we're the good kind of pirates who help people instead of hurting them. Is my daddy really a bad person like they said? Sarah's question cut through the adult's attempt at levity, forcing them to confront the painful truth she would eventually need to face. Zephyros knelt beside the child, his massive frame somehow managing to appear gentle rather than threatening. Your father made choices that caused harm to others, Sarah, but that does not make you responsible for his actions. You are innocent, and innocent people deserve protection. The ship shuddered as it entered hyperspace, putting distance between them and the station where Sarah's execution should have taken place. Elena moved to the navigation console, plotting a course that would keep them ahead of the inevitable pursuit. We've got bigger problems than explaining family disappointments, she announced grimly. By now, the council knows exactly who helped you escape. They'll brand me a terrorist and put bounties on all our heads. My crew didn't sign up for a war against galactic government. Zephyros stood slowly, the full implications of his choice becoming clear. I will surrender myself to council justice if you ensure the child reaches safety. My rebellion should not doom your crew. Like hell you will, Elena snapped. We're all in this together now. Besides, someone needs to keep that kid safe, and you're the only one scary enough to make the council think twice about coming after her. Sarah tugged on the dragon alien's arm, drawing his attention back to her small, serious face. Zephyros, what's going to happen to us now? The question hung in the air like a challenge to everything the adults thought they understood about their situation. They had saved one innocent child, but in doing so, they had declared war against the most powerful governing body in the galaxy. We are going to find you a safe place to grow up. Little one, Zephyros answered with more confidence than he felt. And then we are going to try to make the galaxy a better place for children like you. As the stellar phoenix carried them deeper into the unknown reaches of space, the unlikely alliance between a rogue dragon alien, a disgraced human captain, and one innocent child began to take shape. Their rebellion had started with a simple act of mercy, but it would grow into something that would challenge the foundations of galactic society itself. 2 weeks into their journey through the Outer Rim territories, the Stellar Phoenix had become an unlikely sanctuary for the galaxy's most wanted fugitives. Sarah had adapted to life aboard the ship with the remarkable resilience of childhood, turning cargo containers into fortresses and befriending every crew member with her infectious curiosity about their diverse species and backgrounds. Zephyros found himself experiencing emotions he had never known existed. The simple act of reading bedtime stories to Sarah had awakened something paternal in his ancient warrior's heart. Watching her laugh at the ship's engineer's jokes or help Dr. Kess sort medical supplies filled him with a warmth that had nothing to do with his internal combustion systems. Elena's crew had initially been skeptical about harboring such dangerous passengers, but Sarah's presence had transformed the atmosphere aboard their vessel. The child's innocent questions and genuine interest in their lives made each crew member feel valued in ways they had forgotten were possible. Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission on encrypted channels, announced Jinx, the ship's Vorthan communications officer. His 3 eyes blinked in sequence as he processed the incoming signal. It's from someone claiming to represent the Human Liberation Front. Elena moved to the communication station with Zephyros close behind. The Human Liberation Front was a shadow organization rumored to operate in the frontier regions, helping human colonies resist council oppression and maintain independence. If they were real and trying to make contact, it could mean either salvation or a trap. The holographic projection that appeared showed a woman in her 50s with silver hair and sharp intelligence in her eyes. She wore the simple clothing of a frontier colonist, but something in her bearing suggested military training and command experience. Captain Vasquez, I am Director Sarah Morrison of the Human Liberation Front. Yes, we chose to use the child's name as a sign of good faith. We know what you've done and we want to help. Elena exchanged glances with Zephyros before responding. Help how? And why should we trust an organization that most people think is a myth? Because we've been fighting the Council's tyranny for 15 years. And because what they tried to do to that child represents everything we stand against. Innocent people should not pay for their parents' political mistakes. Morrison's image flickered slightly as the long-range transmission fought through. Interference, Zephyros stepped into view of the communication array. Director Morrison, I am the one who prevented the execution. What assistance do you offer? Morrison's expression showed no fear at the sight of the galaxy's most dangerous enforcer, only grim respect. We offer sanctuary for the child and a chance for both of you to join a cause bigger than personal survival. The Council's corruption has reached the point where they execute children for political theater. That cannot be allowed to continue. The conversation was interrupted by Sarah's arrival in the communication bay, drawn by voices she didn't recognize. She carried her stuffed rabbit and wore one of Elena's old shirts that hung on her small frame like a dress. Who are you talking to? She asked with the directness that had become familiar to everyone aboard the ship. Morrison's expression softened as she saw the child whose name had become a rallying cry for resistance movements across human space. Hello, Sarah. I'm someone who wants to help keep you safe. Are you going to take me away from Zephyros? Sarah moved closer to the dragon alien who instinctively positioned himself protectively beside her. No, child. We would never separate you from those who love you. We're offering all of you a place where you can be safe together, while fighting to make sure no other children face what you have endured. Elena studied the transmission details on her secondary screen. This signal is coming from the Kepler colony cluster. That's deep in independent territory, well beyond Council jurisdiction. The colonies have declared neutrality in galactic politics, but we provide them with defense against both Council aggression and pirate raids. In return, they offer sanctuary to refugees and resources for our operations. Morrison paused as background voices spoke urgently off camera. I'm afraid I have to cut this short. Council forces are moving through this sector, apparently searching for you. Will you consider our offer? Zephyros looked down at Sarah, who was listening to the adult conversation with the serious attention she brought to everything important. What do you think, little one? Would you like to live somewhere safe where other children can play and learn? Sarah considered the question with the gravity of someone much older. Will there be other kids there? I miss having friends my own age. Yes, Sarah, there are many children in the colonies. Some of them have parents who made mistakes too, but they're safe and happy now. Morrison's voice carried genuine warmth as she spoke to the child. And Zephyros can stay with me? He's my friend now, and I don't want to lose any more friends. Sarah's simple statement cut to the heart of the dragon alien's deepest fears about their future. Zephyros will always be welcome among us. Warriors who protect the innocent are exactly what we need. Elena made the decision for all of them. Transmit the coordinates, Director. We'll set course immediately. As the communication ended and Elena's crew began plotting their new course, Zephyros found himself facing a future he had never imagined. For 1,000 years he had served an institution that demanded absolute obedience without question. Now he was about to join a rebellion based on the principle that some things were more important than following orders. Sarah tugged on his arm, drawing his attention back to her upturned face. Zephyros, are you scared about what's going to happen next? The dragon alien considered lying to protect her from his own uncertainties, but their relationship had been built on honesty from the beginning. Yes, Sarah, I am afraid, but I am not afraid of the future anymore. I am afraid of what might have happened to you if we had not chosen to fight. My daddy used to say that being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you are scared. Sarah's words carried the wisdom of someone who had learned difficult lessons far too young. The stellar phoenix altered course toward the distant Kepler colonies. Zephyros realized that his greatest victory was not the military campaigns that had made him famous across the galaxy. It was this small human child who had taught him that true strength came not from following orders, but from choosing to protect those who could not protect themselves. The dragon alien who had once been the Council's most feared weapon was about to become something far more dangerous to their corrupt system. He was becoming a symbol of hope for anyone who believed that justice meant protecting the innocent, regardless of the political consequences. Their rebellion had begun with saving one child, but it would not end there. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemies are those who fight not for conquest or power, but for the simple right of children to grow up safe from the mistakes of their parents. The Kepler colony cluster emerged from hyperspace like a constellation of hope against the star-filled void. Dozens of interconnected habitats and agricultural stations orbited a yellow sun that reminded Sarah of home, while patrol ships moved in protective formations around the civilian structures. The sight filled Zephyros with something he had never expected to feel again, the possibility of belonging somewhere. Director Morrison met them personally at the main docking facility, accompanied by a diverse group of humans and allied species who had found refuge in the independent colonies. Sarah pressed her face against the viewport as they approached, marveling at the sight of children playing in pressurized gardens, visible through transparent walls. Look, Zephyros, there are kids everywhere, and they have trees and flowers just like on Earth. Sarah's excitement was infectious, bringing smiles to even the most battle-hardened members of Elena's crew. The dragon alien watched the child's joy with deep satisfaction. After weeks of uncertainty and danger, Sarah was finally going to have the childhood that had been stolen from her by galactic politics. The simple sight of her happiness made every risk they had taken worthwhile. Director Morrison greeted them in the docking bay with the warmth of someone welcoming family rather than dangerous refugees. She knelt to Sarah's eye level as they disembarked, offering the child a small flower from the colony's gardens. Welcome home. Sarah, we've prepared a special place for you and Zephyros, somewhere with room to grow and learn and make new friends. Sarah accepted the flower with careful reverence, then surprised everyone by offering it to Zephyros. "This is for you, because you saved me and brought me to the safe place." The dragon alien accepted the tiny blossom with hands that could crush steel, his fierce reputation crumbling completely in the face of a child's simple gesture of gratitude. Morrison watched the exchange with knowing eyes, recognizing the profound bond that had formed between the unlikely pair. Over the following days, Sarah threw herself into colony life with the enthusiasm of someone discovering wonder in everyday experiences. She attended classes with other refugee children, learned to tend plants in the agricultural sections, and quickly became a beloved figure among the diverse population of the colonies. Zephyros found his own place within the Liberation Front's structure, though his role was far different from his previous military service. Instead of enforcing orders from distant politicians, he helped train colonist defense forces and protected supply convoys from pirate raids. For the first time in his long life, his strength served a cause he could see and understand. The dragon alien's presence had an unexpected effect on Liberation Front operations. His reputation preceded him wherever they went, and many council forces chose to withdraw rather than face the galaxy's most feared warrior in battle. Word spread through the outer rim that the deadliest dragon had turned against his former masters, inspiring other oppressed populations to resist council authority. Elena and her crew integrated into the colonial defense network, their ship becoming part of a growing fleet of independent vessels committed to protecting the frontier from both council aggression and criminal elements. The captain found herself enjoying the return to legitimate military service, even if their cause was technically rebellion. 3 months after their arrival, Sarah had grown noticeably taller and healthier, her face filled with the confidence that came from safety and belonging. She had made friends among the colony children and had even begun teaching them stories about dragons, always featuring a brave protector who saved innocent people from harm. "Zephyros, do you miss being important for the council?" Sarah asked one evening as they watched the sunset through the observation deck of their shared quarters. The dragon alien considered the question carefully. "I thought I was important when I followed their orders, little one. But I was only a weapon they used to frighten others into obedience. Here, protecting people who need help, I am truly important for the first time. I'm glad you chose to save me instead of hurt me. You're the best dragon friend anyone could have." Sarah curled up against his side, a gesture that had become their evening ritual. As news of their rebellion spread across the galaxy, the Galactic Council found itself facing unprecedented resistance to its authority. Other colonies declared independence, military officers began questioning orders that targeted civilians, and public opinion in many systems turned against the increasingly authoritarian government. The Council's response was swift and brutal. They declared the Kepler colonies a terrorist stronghold and authorized military action to recapture the fugitives and restore order. But they had underestimated the change that Sarah's story had wrought in galactic public opinion. When Council forces arrived at the edge of the Kepler system, they found their way blocked not only by the Liberation Front fleet, but by vessels from a dozen independent systems and even some ships from Council member worlds whose crews refused to participate in an assault on civilian populations. The standoff lasted for days, with negotiations conducted through official diplomatic channels and backroom communications. The galaxy held its breath as two philosophies of governance faced each other across the void of space. Finally, High Commander Valdris herself arrived aboard a massive dreadnought, demanding to negotiate directly with Zephyros. The dragon alien agreed to meet his former superior aboard a neutral vessel, knowing that his choice would affect not only his own fate, but the future of everyone he had come to protect. "You have cost us everything we worked to build, old friend," Valdris said as they faced each other in the meeting chamber. "Order, stability, the rule of law, all undermined by your sentiment for one human child. I have cost you nothing that was worth keeping," Zephyros replied firmly. "A government that executes children for their parents' crimes deserves to fall. And what would you replace it with? Chaos? Every system governing itself without coordination or authority? I would replace it with justice that protects the innocent instead of sacrificing them for political convenience. Sarah Chen taught me that some things are more important than following orders." The negotiation continued for hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. Public pressure from across the galaxy, combined with the defection of significant military assets, had made the Council's position untenable. They agreed to grant amnesty to the Kepler colonies and establish new protocols protecting family members from punishment for relatives' crimes. Sarah Chen, the 10-year-old girl whose scheduled execution had started a galactic revolution, became the symbolic center of reforms that would reshape interstellar civilization. Children across dozens of worlds would grow up safer, because one dragon alien had chosen compassion over obedience. As Zephyros returned to the colonies to share the news of their victory, he found Sarah waiting for him with a drawing she had made in art class. It showed a large dragon protecting a small girl, with the words "My Hero" written in careful lettering at the bottom. Looking at the simple picture, the dragon alien realized that he had found something more valuable than all the military honors in his previous life. He had found purpose in protecting innocence, family in an unlikely bond with a human child, and hope in the possibility that even the darkest hearts could choose light when it mattered most. The galaxy's deadliest dragon had witnessed the punishment of an innocent child and had chosen to become something better than he had ever been before. In saving Sarah Chen, Zephyros had discovered that the greatest victory was not conquest, but the simple act of ensuring that children could sleep safely under the stars.